Hello and welcome to a new episode of Spooky News from Spooky Ventures. Today is November 22nd and Halloween is definitely in the rearview mirror at this point. However, as we always say here, spooky is a lifestyle, not a season. Before we get to the news, I need to get the usual announcements out of the way. First, everything Spooky Ventures, but especially this YouTube channel, is supposed to be interactive, so please interact. You can do that with this channel by liking our videos, sharing our videos, and commenting. You can also do that by emailing us at keepitspooky@spookyventures.com. And please subscribe to the channel. Next, remember that if you want more information about anything we talk about here, you can find that two different places. First, you can wait until we are done talking, and all the source and more information URLs will be included as title cards at the end of this video. Secondly, you can just check the details section of the video listing because they are also included there. Now, with that out of the way, we'll turn things over to our remote reporter, DB Lovecraft, for our first news items. DB, how are you doing, and what do you have for us?
Thanks, Gary. I'll get started with book news, and specifically comic books. There's a new graphic novel coming out called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, starring Boris Karloff. It is said to be an adaptation of the novel rather than the film. The design of the monster is definitely not the one you expect based on the Universal films, but the face is decidedly Boris Karloff. It's basically a visual representation of what you might have gotten had the original Universal film been a more faithful adaptation. The graphic novel is available now. In what seems to be a perfect transition piece, Scratch Comics has a new illustrated book coming out that also ties into Universal monsters. Shadows of the Stokerverse includes 20 tales centering around things only hinted at in Bram Stoker's Dracula and his manuscripts. It is supposed to be available only via a Kickstarter campaign and should be shipping now. Stephen King has a new book coming in May. That novel will be titled Never Flinch, and it's said to feature intertwining plots and a number of returning characters from other King works. The specific publication date for the book is May 27, 2025. Have you ever wanted to smell like a vampire? Well, your time has come. That's because Heretic Parfum has unveiled Nosferatu perfume to tie in with the Robert Eggers film. It's said that the fragrance, quote, evokes the uneasy chill of encountering an apparition. Coming in special packaging, the limited edition scent sells for $125 for a 30 milliliter bottle. Nika has a new Hannibal Lecter action figure. It's a very specific one, too. It shows the legendary character secured to a gurney with the infamous muzzle on his face, and it should be available now. A duo of new action figures are being released to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The two figures are Leatherface and the Hitchhiker. Also coming from Nika, those figures won't hit stores until spring, but you can pre-order them now. That's all I've got for you in this segment, Gary, so I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, DB. We'll turn our attention to spooky TV news now. DB, this one should be of some interest to you. I know you and Scary Gary debuted your turkey episode of Spooky Movie Time with Scary Gary earlier this week. Well, Mystery Science 3000 is doing a major celebration of the holiday, too. They're doing a Thanksgiving marathon that starts at 5 a.m. on the holiday. It's going to be called the Potluck of the Stars Marathon, and it will feature a whole host of guests, including Mark Hamill, Mike Flanagan, Matthew Lillard, and David Dastmalchian, among others. The marathon will be streaming on multiple channels. You can find a full list at mst3kturkeyday.com. Now let's turn our attention to the Wednesday series. You know, that's the show based around Wednesday Addams. There was an interesting announcement about casting for season 2. Apparently Lady Gaga will be in the second season. There haven't been a lot of details about it, but what do you, the viewer, think about this announcement? Drop your response in the comments. You know, like I said before, interact. Next up, for those who are anxiously awaiting the Alien franchise series that will be coming next year, some footage has been released that should be of interest. It is just a short snippet of Alien Earth as part of a 2025 releases trailer from Disney+, but it is our first look. Now, before I turn things back over to DB for some music news, I need to share a couple sad items. First, Jonathan Hayes has passed away. He was a regular in Roger Corman films, but is probably best known for playing the main character Seymour in Corman's Little Shop of Horrors. Hayes was 95 years old. We've also lost Tony Todd. The actor was probably best known for playing Candyman. I adore that first Candyman movie, so I definitely think of him in that role, but I'm also a huge Star Trek fan, and especially a fan of the Klingons, so he will always be Worf's brother Kurn to me too. Todd was 69 years old. DB, sorry to send it back to you on that sad note, but I believe you have some movie news for us.
It's not so easy to follow up that kind of news, but I'm a professional, so I'll get through it. If you're a fan of The Black Phone, you will probably be excited to know that production has begun on the sequel. The movie is set to be released next October, so it sounds like it's on track to make that deadline. We've talked quite a bit about the new Universal monster outing, The Wolfman. The film comes out this January, but another new trailer has been released over the last week. Those looking forward to the movie will find extra reasons to be excited after watching that trailer. If you like the idea of new takes on vintage films, a recent announcement should be of interest to you. It's perhaps more science fiction than horror, but there's a monster, so it should fit here. Warner Brothers will be remaking the classic 1950s film Forbidden Planet. That movie is really a classic, so it's likely to cause a lot of strong opinions. Another announcement with both horror and science fiction connections, a documentary of Rod Serling's life has been announced as in the works. Serling is certainly best known for The Twilight Zone, but as a writer he co-wrote the screenplay for the first Planet of the Apes movie and also gave us the Night Gallery series, and those are just some highlights of his life. A new trailer was recently released for the horror film take on The Little Mermaid. The film itself will be released digitally on December 17th, but you can get a feel for the movie by watching that trailer now. I know that we at Spooky Ventures really pushed the whole put the spooky back into Christmas thing. Well, one of the older Christmas horror franchises is getting a reboot. That series is the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise, and it's being reported that filming will be starting soon on the reboot of the first movie. It's scheduled for release late next year, so it sounds like it might be in theaters in time for Christmas of 2025. Continuing with our coverage of ho-ho horror, we turn our attention to Terrifier 3. The movie will be hitting video on demand next week on the 26th, but you'll be able to get it in physical formats next month on December 17th. Since the movie is a Christmas-centered film, that timing seems appropriate. Well, that's it for movie news, Gary, so I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, DB. In a moment, we'll be sending it back to you for a look at our calendar, but I have one final piece of news and a couple of announcements to do before that. Have you ever wanted to take a flashlight tour of the Winchester Mystery House? Well, you will have a chance next month. That's because they'll be doing that event on Friday the 13th. Head over to their website at winchestermysteryhouse.com to get your tickets. Now, before DB gets to the calendar dates, I wanted to remind you of a couple things. First, everything Spooky Ventures, and especially this YouTube channel, is supposed to be interactive. So please interact by liking and sharing our videos, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Secondly, if you want more information about anything we've talked about here, you can either stick around for the title cards at the end of this video, or check out the details section of the video listing. That's because we include all the source and more information links in both places. Now, about the calendar, you can always find our Spooky Ventures calendar at our main page, spookyventures.com. Just scroll down to the bottom of the main page and you'll find the link. We list all kinds of dates that should be of interest to fans of all things spooky there. For a look at some of those dates, we'll turn it back over to our remote reporter. DB, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Gary. There really isn't much on our calendar for this time around. The movie The Devil's Bath did debut yesterday, so that almost qualifies. Today is Jamie Lee Curtis's birthday. Tomorrow, November 23rd, is the birthday of someone I mentioned earlier, Boris Karloff. This is generally a quiet time for horror releases, so it makes sense that there aren't a lot of things on the calendar this time around. So, with that in mind, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, DB. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of Spooky News from Spooky Ventures. Remember that you can find all kinds of cool Spooky Ventures merchandise at our Cafe Press store. You can find that at cafepress.com/spookyventures. We'll be back with another episode of Spooky News next month. In the meantime, remember, spooky is a lifestyle, not a season, so always keep it spooky. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.